Well, hello, everybody. This is Jason, and welcome to episode 2 with myself and Chris for Unchained Cinema. Time to break the chains, not to be confused with Unchained Melody. So we have a new episode today. One that I think that I'm gonna be way more into than Chris. Chris told me in the middle of the week, he was like, "What the hell am I watching, dude? What did you suggest?" And he kind of talked a lot of crap about it. So the expectation had been pretty low. I hadn't seen it yet either, but I was wanting to see it. So when I watched it, we'll get to it a little bit later. I was like, were we even talking about the same movie? So I was I'm interested to hear the few things you're going to say about it. So the movie we're talking about, I don't know if I've already said it or not, is going to be Killer Joe. William Friedkin flick, came out in 2011 or was filmed in 2011, and it's his last movie he's made thus far. He's getting up there in age, so I would be surprised if he did another movie, but it's definitely possible. William Friedkin is best known for The Exorcist, French Connection, Sorcerer, Bug, among other films. And so anyways, before we get too deep in the woods, I kind of want to ask Chris, this was kind of my choice. The first one was Bomb City, was Chris's. I think we kind of talked about when we do pick movies, we'll kind of go back and forth on the episodes. We'll talk about a movie. I'll suggest one, he'll suggest one. And so it was my turn. So he might not want me picking movies moving forward after today. so with that being said, Chris, good to see you again, brother. What were your initial thoughts?
I had no expectations going in. I'd never heard of it until you brought it up. I like Matthew McConaughey, so I was, pretty stoked about it. I would say visually, the movie was appealing from beginning to end. The special effects, how the director and the cinematography crew worked together. I really liked the first trailer park scene, because I think in every community there's a trailer park like that. Ours in Michigan, or my area, was Moon Lake. Moon Lake was that trailer park. So it was something I could relate to, and I think a lot of people can relate to. But no, I mean, overall, yeah, I didn't hate the movie. I thought, everything was done exceptionally well. There were just some themes in there that kind of didn't mesh with my morals and values, I guess. And I don't like hating one of my favorite actors, and Matthew McConaughey did a good job of making me hate his character. It was very well executed. Like I said, there were just themes in there that didn't jive with how I view the world and what I think is acceptable. So it definitely tapped into the Jeffrey Epstein thing. So I think if you can kind of read into it, that was kind of the theme that I was getting at that I didn't like.
So to talk about that, it's never said, unless I missed it, how old the girl is. We'll get a little bit more details. They never really say how old the girl is. They pass it off as she's very innocent and kind of unexperienced, so to speak, of the world. She's very sheltered, but they don't really say her age, because I kept waiting for it to be like you were saying, like, wow, she had, maybe they said her age and I missed it. I actually went to Wikipedia and a couple other sources to see they say her age. They never say the girl's age. I never read anything about how old the girl's supposed to be. My impression was that she just like 17, 18, really, really, really sheltered, whatever. Now, of course, she plays super innocent, so that's why she maybe feels like she's a lot younger. But I definitely get the vibe you're giving me. But I was expecting it to be like way more like creepy, I guess. Even though it's super creepy, don't get me wrong. I was waiting for it to be even, I guess, the way you spoke to me originally about it, I was like, what? So before we go down that rabbit hole, the way the movie has William, as you mentioned, it's Matthew McConaughey plays Killer Joe. He is a Dallas police officer, detective slash hired hitman, which obviously is illegal, you know. But if you pay him a certain amount of money, he will dispose of the person you want to get rid of for that dollar amount. You also have Gina Gershon, who's absolutely amazing. I've always liked her and stuff. She's a really big B-movie actress. She's in Bound. She's in Showgirls. She's in lots of stuff. You have Emile Hirsch. He's in lots of different. He also was a young actor during the 90s and early 2000s. He's in lots of different stuff. You also have Thomas Haden Church. He played Sandman in the Spider-Man movies. A lot of people, I think that's probably one of the most recognizable films he's been in. And then the girl we're talking about is Juno Temple, and she plays Dottie in the movie. And she's actually from England, I believe. But she has a great, like, Texas or whatever accent that she has. She does a great kind of like accent. I mean, you would never know this girl's from England. But she is from, I think, England. I could be wrong, but she's from somewhere in Europe, I believe. And so the way the movie starts is that you have Emile Hirsch, who plays the young brother to the Dottie character, and the son to the Thomas Hayden Church character. Then Gina Gershon is Thomas Hayden's wife in the movie. And they hatched this really white trash, half-cocked, half-baked plan to kill Thomas Hayden Church's ex-wife, you know, Dottie's mom, and I think his name's Chris, Emile Hirsch's mom, and then they're going to get the money from her $50,000 life insurance policy. So that's how but they don't want to do it themselves. So that's why they get Killer Joe, to do it for them. So he wants the money in advance, obviously, because he's not going to do a killing without being paid. And well, they're like, well, we don't have the money. They haven't thought this thing out, as you will find out throughout the movie. But so because he can't come up with the money till after the mom's been dead, it gets killed, he decides to take Dottie as his retainer. So he retains Dottie as his basically property until he gets paid. Well, he ends up falling in love for Dottie and vice versa. The whole thing is kind of creepy, like, you know, Chris alluded to, like, it was almost like against her will, you think, but really it's not. And she ends up being totally fine with it. They want to, like, you know, live happily ever after. And I don't want to give away too much of the movie because there's quite a few twists and turns. Because if you do watch it, like Chris said, it's shot beautifully. The cinematography is awesome. There's a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of like scenes with rain leading into bad things. A lot of times, if you know about storytelling, when rain happens or people step in puddles of water, or you have like a storm, let's get ready to set something bad's about to happen. There's a scene with lightning bolts, and you see a lot of 3 lightning bolts. You see 3 crosses in the middle of the movie a couple of times, and if you watch the end of the movie, the number 3 place is symbolic to what happens towards the end of the movie with what happens to certain people not making it through to the end of the movie, so to speak. But you see like a prominent 3 crosses in a scene. You see lightning bolts coming down a couple different times. And these are like little things you notice about the movie. And it's kind of like foreshadowing what will happen. So as I mentioned this a moment ago, the whole thing's half-baked. So when they think if they kill the mom, that Dottie, the youngest daughter, the youngest child, she's going to get the life insurance policy. Well, unfortunately for them, the mom ended up not giving it to Dottie, but giving it to someone else. So that turns Joe into a even more maniac, crazy, off-kiltered lunatic who now not only does he want the money, he also wants the girl. And so, of course, as you could expect, there's a lot going on throughout the movie that like raises the stakes. And then, of course, like I said, at the end, there's some crazy stuff. I don't know how much we want to get into it, but there's some crazy stuff that happens at the end. And I like the end. William Friedkin did a good job of leaving it very ambiguous. Like, you really don't know how the movie's going to end. Like, you could take it couple different ways. So that's kind of the way that's kind of the movie in a nutshell, I think, without giving away too much of the details, because it is a movie to watch, in my humble opinion. The movie's so well acted. Gina Gershon in the final scene is absolutely awesome. I mean, when Friedkin pulls up on her face and she's having to act through fear, through intimidation, through worry and just humiliation, you can see it on her face. Of course, like Chris mentioned, Matthew McConaughey, the whole time he's like a scumbag, POS, like he's up to no good, like, he's only out for himself. But he does such a good job of playing this crazy, like, just like hanging on by a thread maniac. And like I said, at the end where everything hits the fan, I'm just like, wow. You don't get to see him play and act that way in too many movies. Usually he plays like the heartthrob or like the leading man or kind of like the goofy, like the kind of like high smoking weed type of ha kind of guy. Right, yeah, exactly. And so when you see him play a role like this, where there is like he's not cutting jokes, he's not playing up the leading man vibe whatsoever. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's very it feels very hard to watch, I guess. Like you were kind of saying, it feels very difficult to see him in that light. So I've spoken quite a bit. What are some of your views and thoughts, and what were some of your takeaways?
I thought it was a pretty standard Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 structure. Act 2, the conflict got a little drawn out. I think there was some stuff in there that they could have cut out. The scene with him gambling again and then getting caught by the boss and his henchmen. Right. That could have easily been taken out. But as you were talking, I was looking, and it dawned on me, we watched two different versions of this movie. You watched the R-rated version. I watched the NC-17 rated version. And I think that's why we kind of got different takes on it. But I'm going to pull up this article, and this shows you that she was 12. She was not 18. She was not 19. She was 12. Okay. So
it doesn't say that in the movie in the R-rated version.
Right. And it seems like that was a point of contention between Friedkin and the MPAA. So when you said that you were, I don't want to watch an edited version of the film, it just dawned on me now as you were talking about, you didn't experience this and that. That's what made me come to that conclusion.
Well, it's funny you said that. I won't cut you off about this for a second. I actually wrote on here, I know I saw the R-rated version. There is an unrated version out there. But when I looked it up on my streaming services, and maybe they won't show this on the streaming services because I went to 3 different channels, Tubi, Crackle, and Roku or something, and all 3 had the censored, I guess, R-rated version. Because I was trying to find the unrated, because like you said, I knew there was out there. And it even says at the beginning, this has been modified to accommodate blah, 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 or whatever it says. So I knew, like, they were even cutting out the cussing. And I was like, what is this? Like, it was weird. But I guess they have either a R-rated and they cut out all the heavy language. Because when they were talking about, like, the man's genitalia and all that stuff, I don't want to say the words, like, towards the end, all that got cut out. Like, the F-bombs got cut out, all that. I was like, what is this? Because I know they don't do that on almost everything else I've watched. I've seen nudity and all these other services. They cuss. They obviously have a lot of stuff in there. So I have to believe there's one version, the R-rated version, and then there's the unrated version. They didn't make any other versions. So either you have the cleaned up, made for TV version, or you get the unrated version. And for whatever reason, it's not on here. So anyways, I just want to, now I know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I can tell you there's probably some good reasons why it wasn't on a streaming service. I had Gina Gershon giving him essentially a blowjob with a piece of chicken for about
that's on
like
there.
5-10 minutes.
Do they show it on the unrated version?
Yeah.
Okay, so they just show like the top of his like chest, and so I knew obviously it was more to it, but again,
no, it went on and on and on and on.
Right.
I mean, it shows Gina Gershon's nether region in the first 3 minutes of the movie. And then it was like full frontal nudity of this 12-year-old girl. And you're just like, what? No. So the unedited version was pretty intense.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like you were saying, there's a lot of twists and turns, and every time you think you got it figured out, or every time you think it's finally going to wrap up, no, something it goes sideways into another direction. So I thought they did a really good job with that. It wasn't the movie overall that I didn't like. It was the more or less the concept that they're sexualizing a young girl, which kind of seems to be Hollywood's thing. But it just
right.
This,
well, I
this
guess
lays it all out there.
Well, like I said, I guess then you have the option out there. Everybody who watches this, you have the option of one to the R-rated version to have maybe more of a cleaned up, movie to watch, or you could watch the unrated. I prefer the unrated version. I hate watching, a cleaned up, made for TV type version. Even if I don't like the subject matter, even if I don't agree with what maybe is being said or shown, I want to see the way the director wants to present his film, and then I can take it for what it's worth. Either I can be disgusted by it, I can enjoy it, I can find things I enjoy about it, but overall maybe it's not a good experience. So I'm not about. I don't like anything censored. I'm a huge fan of not censoring stuff. So anyways, so now you made it quite clear that she's supposed to be 12. Obviously, like I told you, it's alluded that she's young, but in that version, they don't really say it. Maybe that's the reason. That's the reason why they get away with showing it, because they don't talk. They cut that part out or whatever. So you don't really know. They don't bring it up during the film. So anyways, okay. Aside from it being the unrated and R-rated versions, any other thoughts you had about it? I was going to kind of talk about some other observations I had.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So the other thing I noticed, I think Chris, you might agree with me, but I felt like Matthew McConaughey was channeling like a Elvis, kind of like a Elvis / Johnny Cash vibe. He had the Elvis sunglasses he wore in almost every scene, kind of like the big, overtly big glasses, like the 70s Elvis that was like drug-ridden Elvis. And he always had the black hat, all the black clothes, which is a Johnny Cash trademark. He always, and of course, Johnny Cash and Elvis are both from the South. They both they both have a kind of like a very cool Southern vibe in their music and in their appearance or whatnot. I feel like you saw a little bit of that with Matthew McConaughey. He kind of had this like, I'm too cool for school. I'm this cool guy that, knows I'm cool and I can kind of get away with whatever I want kind of vibe. There's a couple scenes where he's in the precinct. And, everybody's like, hey, what's up, Joe? And he's just like, hey, what's up, guys? He's kind of walking by like he's a big swinging dick the whole time and all that, right before he ends up meeting up with Chris out by the car. So he's going through the police station.
It reminds me of
just have that vibe, but he just kind of being like, he just kind of come and go as he pleases. He just kind of like does what he wants. And so
what's interesting though is it's very reminiscent of his character in Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. That's
what I like about high school girls, man. I get older and they stay the same age.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The other thing I thought, I already kind of talked about this, and I know Chris spoke about it as well, but I really thought that Matthew McConaughey, he did great in this role. He was awesome. I mean, he came and he hit a grand slam, to use a nice baseball reference, because I don't think I've ever seen him in a film like this before or after. And there may be one out there, I just haven't seen it, but I haven't seen it, so I'm saying this right here, Killer Joe. There's a tour de force if you want to see Matthew McConaughey channel an inner demon to show what kind of person, like sick, person that's very manipulative, very just, no morals, no values, just completely self-absorbed. Obviously, he has issues. It's quite clear when you first meet him, he has serious issues. The other thing I noticed also, and you may not notice this, Chris, and maybe you did, but Matthew McConaughey, back in like the mid-90s, he did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation with Renee Zellweger. Now, in 2 different scenes at the end with Gina Gershon, he goes, do you want me to wear your face? You want me to cut your face off and wear it as a mask? And that was a specific reference to what he did, because he played the Leatherface like type of killer with the face, cut off human face in that movie.
I was wondering about that. I've never seen what movie you're talking about, but
yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: Next Generation. He plays like one of the killers, and he's chasing Renee Zellweger's character, and he's like one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre killer, Leatherface type killers or whatever. And so, but he makes reference twice that he goes, "I'll cut your face off and wear it as a mask." So, it's a direct reference to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which he's a part of that franchise. I'm sure that was not by accident either. That was Matthew McConaughey, or maybe William Friedkin was like, "Hey, this is something depraved that you would say because of this character," and whatever. So however they got there, they got there. But anyway, so I haven't seen that movie in a long time, so I don't remember all the ins and outs. But he definitely plays like the villain, Texas Chainsaw Massacre baddie or whatnot. So that was a nice little throw for people who are in the know. If you know, you know. So there you go. Don't be a hoe and watch the show. There you go. I'm a hoe and I didn't know it. So kind of on your end, have you seen some of William Friedkin's other films before? Have you seen The Exorcist? Have you seen The French Connection? Have you seen Sorcerer? Have you seen Bug?
The only one that comes to mind is Exorcist.
Mm-hmm. This is a very well-made movie. Like I said, Chris mentioned that. I mentioned that. Regardless if you like the subject matter or not, that might not be for everybody's liking. The movie itself is very well-made. And again, the acting's fantastic. It's very believable. I want to kind of revisit what you said, Chris. The very first scene, you have the Chris character, the Emile Hirsch character. He's coming through this trailer park. It's raining. It's nasty outside. You have this pit bull that's nonstop barking, that's going nuts, like tied to a chain outside. He's coming in and he like banging on the door trying to get into the trailer. And then like when he gets in, it's just like this white trash, nonsense going on between him and his like mentally deficient father and his wife, and his sister Dottie's in there. And it's just very much like this really felt like real, like you're watching like a real life family who are interacting with each other. You get to be like a fly on the wall. It felt like that kind of like connectivity to what's going on. It didn't feel like you're watching a movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize he made Blue Chips. I didn't know.
Oh that. Yeah, Blue Chips. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm sure he wishes he forgot about it too. But yeah,
it was good for his time. Huh?
Yeah, I have it down here somewhere. I know. I forgot about that. Yeah. So, I mean, was there anything that stood out to you, like any specific scenes or anything that, I mean, we talked about Matthew McConaughey, but was there any specific scenes or anything that happened that kind of stood out to you that, was like, oh, okay, I like what was going on here, or maybe you're like, I don't like what was going on here?
There were some really good shots in there. Just the way they filmed it, like when Joe punched old girl in the face, like her reaction was spot on, and yes. the way it was filmed, it looked so real. And
it looked real.
Blood, and I was like, God.
Yes.
And the same thing when he takes that can and starts beating him in the face.
Yes.
That was just brutal.
The pumpkin filling. He just takes that pumpkin filling and just, yeah. Well, I was going to real quick piggyback off what you said. after she ends up getting the crap kicked out of her by Killer Joe, right? He's like, you need to go talk to your wife. He's telling the husband, Ansel, the Thomas Haden Church actor or the character, you need to go talk to your wife. Like, you need to calm her down or get her calmed down or whatever. And the way he shoots at it, she's in the foreground, or she's in the, what do you call it? She's in the foreground. No, in the background. She's in front of the camera, huh?
Okay, yeah, I got what you're saying.
She's in front of the camera, and then Thomas Haden Church is behind her, right? And she's like doing the dishes or cleaning up or whatever, cleaning her face, and he's behind her asking her, "Are you doing okay? How you doing?" Like, she just got the crap kicked out of her, literally punched out of her, and like I was saying, all that emotion on her face. She's trying to keep it together. She knows that they're in a danger zone. Like, he doesn't know that they can die right now. She knows that they can die right now. Like, he's not smart enough to figure that out. So she is trying to keep it together so she doesn't die, right? And then he's behind her, and he asks her the first time, "Are you doing okay?" And she's just like washing it. She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And you get to see her face, like all these emotions. And then he goes, "Are you sure?" Like, he doesn't even get it. He's like, "Are you sure you're okay?" And then she has to like reassure him that she's okay, even though she just got, basically like she's like one punch away from possibly dying or whatever. And and then and he's just like, "Oh, okay." But just the fact that he pulls in on her face, and like you said, you see the blood, you see the black eyes, you see the busted nose, but you see all that emotion and her thinking like, how am I going to get through this without dying? And you see at the end of the movie, it's all about self-preservation for her.
Yeah. What the part that I couldn't really figure out is how Joe figured out that Thomas Haden Church, is that what you said? How
the Ansel character.
Yeah, how his wife was in on the whole thing with that guy that was made off with all the inheritance or the insurance money. All it shows is afterwards, after they find out that they're not the beneficiary or Dottie's not the beneficiary, it shows Joe pulling over that guy. I can't remember his name. Rex. Yeah. And then that was pretty much it. Like, there was nothing, it doesn't show you where he got the pictures, how he got the pictures. Like I said, they could have cut some of those other scenes out and actually developed a little better of how Joe came to the conclusion that Gina Gershon's character was sleeping with Rex, and was in on the whole thing and knew they weren't going to get the money.
Right. Well, I think if you remember when she was working at the diner, she was showing her friend the pictures in her billfold. And then she was like, and then she references, like, she goes, "Don't those girls know at the photo shop what they're doing?" And she goes, "Oh, these girls don't even know what they're looking at. They've never seen something that big before." And
okay.
And so I think he figured out that, he followed her to the photo album, the Photoshop, and then was like, got the pictures before she did and saw what it was. And so, she knew she was up to no good, but he didn't know how it probably connected. But I mean, he's a detective, so he put it together. That's how I speculated. I don't know if that's how you think, but after I tell you that, maybe it makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
Right. But you're right. You have to think that, because if you're not thinking about that one little scene, you don't really know how he came up with that. Like, he just pulled that out of thin air. Like, where did he get that? So,
yeah, I thought it was good how they had that twist at the end.
Yes,
and I
did not see that twist coming in. I'm sorry to be cut you off.
The dad played a phenomenal character in that space and time when he's like, Joe's beating the crap out of her. And he's like, "You made your bed. Lay in it."
Yeah.
And I can relate to that. I think we all like to think that we'd be the hero in that situation, but I don't know. I mean, that guy had been, this is his second marriage where, he married a whore essentially. So I think you kind of give up after that. And he was like,
yeah,
whatever. I think he was just completely morally and mentally defeated.
Oh, for sure.
And he was a simple guy, but simple guys have feelings too, right?
Well, of course.
But everybody makes him out to be stupid. I mean,
he did a good. The thing is that William Friedkin made a decision to make that character be in a real situation. Like, he's not going to be the hero. If he all of a sudden became the hero, that takes you out of who that character is. He is a guy who's just getting by. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He's like the most like lowest common denominator in society, and I don't mean that in a negative way. That's the character. And after he's been beaten down by his wife, like you said, the second time around, by being like used and abused and made fun of and like going to be left behind, and then be left for the same guy that his wife left him for, his first wife, it's like, talk about a real kick in the balls, you know? And so even the part with Killer Joe, you know, Joe, I think it's really like Joe Duncan in the movie, but Killer Joe, like when he goes, do you have any problems? And then Ansel's like, nope, I don't have any problems. And it's like, you know, and so she knows at that point, she knows she's on her own. Like she ain't gonna have nobody. There's gonna be no white knight shining armor coming to save her. So she just knows. So yeah, I think that they did a good job to keep all these characters as gritty, as real, as as like untouchable as you want. Like, you know, Emile Hirsch's character, you talked about, even though you said you weren't really a big fan of like the scenes where he's like having to deal with like the bookie or whatever, like the money guy, or the kind of like the, you know, underground mafia guy dude or whatever you want to call it. Like, they beat the living crap out of him. And like the whole rest of the movie, he's walking around like a freaking bloodied up zombie. You know, he doesn't get to like, you know, he doesn't get to look good later on the movie, or he heals up a bit. It's like he looks like his, you know, face before it happens again looks like he got hit in the head with a baseball bat 15 times.
So you think it was metaphorical for how he's been beaten up on the inside, and they just made it manifest on the outside? Oh
yeah, for sure. Because he even said in the middle of the movie, he goes, "I wish I wasn't even here anymore. I wish I was dead. You know, I'm not for this world." I mean, that's paraphrasing, but that's what he was saying. And he'd already given up. You know, he was like, you know, his best guess was, "I'm going to Peru." Like, he just pulls it out of thin air. "I'm going to Peru." It's like, Peru? Like, why Peru? So, you know, but that's what he says. But again, that's that guy. That's a guy who cannot think 3 steps ahead of himself. He just thinks, they'll never find me in Peru. Like, he doesn't know how he's going to get there. He doesn't know what it takes to get there. He doesn't know nothing about it. He just goes, "I'm going to Peru." You know, and I like that. If he was like, "I'm going to go to this guy down the street and get fake IDs and a fake passport, and I'm going to go across the border to Mexico," it's like, hold on, this guy doesn't know that stuff. This guy's like some small-time pothead. He ain't going to know that.
Well, it wouldn't make sense if he was like that, because it wouldn't fit the family dynamic either.
Right, exactly.
His mom was a junkie whore. His stepmom was a whore. I don't know if she was a junkie. I imagine so. The dad was a simpleton. The daughter was young and out of touch with reality. So yeah, to have this like super smart character in the middle of this.
Right. You just be like, I don't know about that. So,
yeah. Because I wonder if they filmed it the way they did to make her look older but be younger, because when my first impression of Dottie was that she was like 18, 19, but she was a simpleton. And then when you see her dad, you're like, yeah, that kind of solidifies my theory.
Right.
And it wasn't until later you find out she's 12, because, you know, she has a young appeal to her, but you could tell she's older, but she sleeps in like a little kid's room. So it's like, you know, the perpetual child. Right. So I wonder if they did that so they could have both versions of the movie.
They must, because there's no scene that she's ever naked in the movie. In the R-rated version, she's never nude.
I don't think there's anything I didn't see in the unrated
That's my
one.
point. When you told me that, you know, there was never a scene. There was just a lot of like illusions, of course, but every time that there was like an opportunity for that to happen, it cuts to where she's wearing clothes again, or there's another scene that happens, and it kind of just, you can tell there's a couple parts of the movie where there's jumps. And I knew that was happening, but I didn't have time to call you or to tell you, like, hey, let's pick a different movie, because I didn't realize until middle of the week. And by that point, I was already committed to it, and I didn't want to try to, you know, track down an unrated version at the last minute to just, I mean, because the movie is still the movie. I mean, I still saw the same movie you saw, just without, unfortunately, some of the gorier pieces, and of course, apparently the nudity was cut out from everything. Even the adults, there was no nudity. So I mean, everyone was an adult, but the ones that were being perceived as adults there's nothing there either. So, but yeah, I felt like overall the movie was a very well done movie. We talked about that. If you like William Friedkin's movies, this is definitely like, again, he has his fingerprints all around this movie. The acting by everybody is superb. I mean, if you think about this movie really only has 5 characters in the entire movie. You have the 4 family members and Killer Joe. So this whole movie is being carried by basically 5 actors. I mean, there's a few other people who kind of come in and out, but they have like a minute scene, 30-second scene, whatever. The entire movie is being carried by all 5 actors for an hour and 45 minutes. And that's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of dialogue, a lot of things have to keep moving around for the pacing. And even though you and I both agree that they could have cut out probably a few scenes to make it be a little bit more crisp, overall, I thought there wasn't too much, but I was just like bored. There was like no scene. I was like, okay, I'm bored here. Like it kept moving at enough clip where you don't be like, okay, I'm kind of checked out for 10 minutes. What happened? Yeah. So even today, I was finishing up dinner and I had it playing in the background. I'm like, hold on, wait, there's too much going on. I'm going to miss something. So I had to come back, sit down, rewind it, and then go back and finish up my dinner before I can watch it again. Because I was like, there's stuff happening here that I'm going to be missing out on. Like the thing with his mom. Like it happens so quick. If you don't pay attention to the movie, you don't even know what happened. Like it's just like a nonchalant scene that lasts about 2-3 seconds maximum. And then it's already, they have a scene, they deal with that situation with the mom and then moving on. You're like, what did I just miss? So yeah, you got to really pay attention because they don't really harp on stuff too long. So, but anyways, overall, I mean, you know, I know you and I both, you know, I know you said the subject matter in certain parts you're not a fan of. But overall, I mean, did you like the film or you could not do without it?
I liked it, but I could do without it. I mean, it's kind of got that dynamic to it. I would say overall, sure. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably say probably 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a good movie. Fair. I just disagreed with that aspect. That was it.
Sure. And now remember also, this movie was made in 2011. That's 12 years. That's 11 years ago now, basically. So if this movie was made last week, I would be like, what are you doing? So, you know, sometimes, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but, you know, I feel like a lot of times with people out there, you got to look at the time the movies are made and then realize that it's not necessarily the same sensibilities that we're dealing with in today's world. Because I know for sure for me, and I know Chris is the same way, there's going to be certain movies we want to watch. The subject matter is going to be probably not for everybody's liking, but it's still a movie. It still should be watched if you're into the certain type of movie. And I think it should never be censored. And you know, the good thing is there's this thing called a remote control. If you don't like it, if you're offended by something, you can just be like bloop, and it's over. You don't have to ever revisit it again.
You mean it's not my responsibility to cancel everything?
No, it's not. You know, you don't have to cancel everything. I mean, you can. That's gonna be a lonely world. But yeah, I mean, we have the power. No one's forcing you like a Clockwork Orange to make your eyes stay open and watch everything. Like, you know, I can't stop watching. You can just turn it off. But I'm the kind of person, once I start a movie, even how crappy it is, or how maybe the subject matter is so offensive to me, I still want to finish it because I want to be able to say, like, okay, well, this is why I don't like this movie, or XYZ reason, or whatever. Instead of just being like, oh, I don't like this because they said a word I was offended by, or whatever. That's happened only like once or twice in my entire life, that I was so offended by a movie that I just stopped watching it. So, and I'm not easily offended. So it takes a lot. So I think, I kind of like Chris said, I think if you're not bothered, I mean, maybe that's not the right word. If you can stomach a movie where a adult woman is portraying a child in compromising situations, but the rest of the movie is, a really well-made movie, then this movie, I think, is worth a view, at least a one-time viewing. But if subject matter like that is, hard to watch, then you probably don't want to watch this movie, because apparently the unrated version, or watch the R-rated version. The R-rated version is a completely different movie when it comes to that type of that aspect of it. So maybe you can watch that instead. So I think that's kind of where Chris and I are on Killer Joe, a William Friedkin movie starring Matthew McConaughey that came out 2011. I definitely think it's worth a watch. And like Chris said, he thinks it's worth a watch as well. But the subject matter is a little bit alarming. And so just be aware of that before you get into it. Anything else, Chris, you want to add? Anything else in general?
No, I'm good. I think we pretty much covered everything.
All right. Well, there it is, guys. We appreciate you all watching the video. We talked about this last week. Like, some of them are going to be longer than others. Sometimes there'll be more to talk about. Sometimes it'll be like this one. It's going to be kind of straight to the point. So there it is. So do you know next week, Chris, or next time we do one of these, do you know like a subject or a topic or a movie that you're kind of brewing in your mind that you're kind of want to maybe talk about? Just will you give them a little teaser? Anything?
Nope. I have been pretty preoccupied this week. I haven't had any time to think about it. I do have some ideas in mind, but I don't know if you have access to them. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I found a movie on Tubi. Tubi is the only streaming service that I get here. I'm not going to talk about how I get my other movies. I have Netflix as well.
Right.
But yeah, the Fire Stick is probably the world's best kept secret when it comes to watching movies.
Yeah.
But
well, we do have a special guest on our next episode that's coming up too. I guess we could talk about that real quick. It's Dustin. I don't know if he wants people to know his last name, but he has a channel, and it's a sports car related channel, but it's called Dustin and Blake. But Dustin himself is a big movie fan, and so when he saw myself and Chris doing these videos from a couple weeks ago, he was like, "Guys, I would like to be a part of this." So we have a video coming up with Dustin, and I would say probably right around the same time this is going to go up, or not too far after this gets released. That video will be released as well, or maybe it'll be reversed. Who knows? Chris can do whatever he wants. It's magic. So we'll have a video coming up with Dustin in the near future. So again, I say Mazel Tov. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.